So viel hast du von Handy bezahlt. Also ich habe mir jemand
Das sind die.
Bei uns gibt es auch das Jahr und jetzt gab es zum ersten Mal.
Oder seid ihr Kunden? Das wird top.
So ein Halbmüsse.
42,1.
Nein, 1000.
Neues ist dann so ein
Die Stunden,
warum ist das
sind
so?
Weil jetzt musst du was Alkoholpegel drüber. Ja,
ich könnte da schon mal, wenn ich gucke mal die Zahlen.
Deswegen dürfen wir das aber nicht die.
Wie viel Blut und Wissen haben wir? That's the reason why I carried this number.
Deswegen haben wir natürlich
Auch wenn das number you that cut will explode. Das was ich vorhin
Marathon! Oh, und ich weiß jetzt was. I know what is this? This is like the lunch in this after
this is the karaoke.
Nach dem Komma kommt richtig schwierige mit. Nee, warte, 42 Kilometer, 42 Kilometer und dann noch 200, dann aber dann auch so. Wir versuchen 2017 den Sprint aber auch mein Training. Jetzt
Der Stefan, das hier ist Nummer 2 Slides.
aber ist auch nicht ganz ohne. Das heißt wahrscheinlich ist nicht anstrengend. Ich glaube, diese 500 Meter Schwimmen. Ja, okay, mein Schwager war jetzt letzten 3 Monate so alles am Köpfchen. Dann gab es so diese Serie, die man jetzt noch weiß. Ich hatte so als Gäste so krass, aber nicht, dass man gut mag, so auf dem Wasser
halten.
Ja, sind aber man das so.
Kann ich auch nicht.
Wie sich Dinge machen. Ah, die Tüte ist da.
Yeah, the mobile workstations, they are very Nothing else.
Sorry, that's the station.
That's kind of the stuff that I wanted to do for
Okay.
yeah, like you but more focused on
So hello. Hello. Everyone comfortable and ready for the session?
having some
Yes.
So thanks for attending this session about business process automation. But before we start, we would like to ask some questions and see what the level is of this room. So therefore we have a 30 seconds audience check. So who knows what Systems as a Service Manager and SMA is? Okay. Who uses Systems as a Service Manager?
no one, really, no one. Okay.
Who uses SMA? No one.
Okay.
Who you're supposed to get?
Yeah, we can skip the rest of the questions probably.
Okay, so who has extended the Service Manager class?
In my dreams.
Okay, I guess PowerShell workflow.
But you know PowerShell, yeah?
No. Okay, custom class.
Coding theme?
Yeah, forget it.
Oh yeah.
Who has built nested workflows, PowerShell workflows? No? Okay.
turn the projector upside down.
Okay, so I guess, Stefan, we have to start the level 100 session.
Yeah, we'll do. That's
Just a moment. I have just 200, so I will start the level 200 session. So. Okay, the session is called Business Process Automation, how it's done in a real world scenario. That's actually an example we have built at IDNetX using SelfService Manager, End User Portal and SMA, PowerShell Workflows. And we would like to show you what we have faced, what problems, how we have done it and so on. So let's introduce myself. I'm Stefan Roth. I'm a community guy, I'm a CDM MVP, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is stefanroth_net, and I also have a blog, stefanroth.net, where you can get some more information.
Yeah, me, I'm Stefan Joner, and I'm working at IDNetX as a cloud engineer and mainly work with Service Manager. So I do Service Manager stuff together with automation like SMA or Orchestrator. And yeah, we're here to talk about automation with Service Manager. So let's continue. Yeah, what's this all about? We'll first get you a small overview of this project we did. We'll get you some Service Manager insights afterwards. We'll not go too deep into detail because probably most of you don't know Service Manager that well, obviously. We'll do a short demo of the Service Manager part, and Stefan will give you some insights on the SMA part afterwards. He will also do a short demo, and yeah, we'll come to a conclusion or we'll present some lessons learned we had during this project. So for project overview, we as IDNetX, we were system integrator in this project. We worked together with a customer which is a service provider in Switzerland, and which also specializes in services for governments. Customer was a Swiss government or part of Swiss government. As you may know, in Switzerland we are organized in cantons. It's like regions. We have about 24 or 26 cantons, and customer was one of these cantons. So what we did is we built a brand new platform for workplace for this canton. This included data center infrastructure, workplace management, file print services, all this stuff, together with service management. And that's the part we are talking now in this session. So the schedule of this project, we started back in 2014 with interviews with customers and also with the government. And we designed the data center. And that was a pretty important part of the whole project because we had to gather requirements which yeah, were not that clear in every case. So yeah, we'll come to that later on. So now we are, or we hope to finish the project at the end of the year. And of course there will be kind of a transition phase to hand over infrastructure and all this stuff to the customer, but yeah, should be finished by the end of the year. So the core products of this service management part were System Center Service Manager with its CMDB, very important part of this project. Also business processes which are represented in Service Manager were very important in this project, and of course the SelfService portal, which represents the service catalog for end users, where they can like order service, order notebooks, for example. They can do that over this portal. We used a third-party portal from Saracen, and other core product is Service Management Automation, which runs all this PowerShell automation stuff in the background. And we also use the third-party product to connect these two things together That's the SCSM and SMA connector. And also, of course, we have some other surrounding systems, mainly system center stack, like CCM, SCOM, but also Active Directory and FIM. So, Service Manager. Service Manager has the capability to do all this ITIL stuff, like incident management, service management, service level agreements, change and release management, all these things like many other ticketing tool in quotes can do. But Service Manager can also help you to integrate like IT as a service in your organization. That's because Service Manager has a service catalog, and Service Manager brings also a self-service portal, which brings together this service catalog, or brings this service catalog to the end user. And together with an automation solution like SMA or Orchestrator, Service Manager is really capable of doing end-to-end automation of services which are offered to end users. Also, we have an integration to other System Center products, like I said before, like Active Directory, Config Manager, SCOM, VMware, SMA, and Orchestrator. Of course, you can do integration to other products, also non-Microsoft products, by using PowerShell, for example by using SMA. We did integration to, yeah.
And how about getting information with SelfXML?
SelfXML?
Yeah, for example, web services?
Yeah, that's possible. Actually, Service Manager does not support this directly, but you can do it like, for example, by using SMA. You can have SMA querying kind of a web service, like a SOAP service or so, and import this information into Service Manager. Service Manager has an SDK which you can
but can you talk to WDSL?
WDSL?
Yeah.
Not by default from Service Manager, but you can talk to quite everything with SMA and with using the Service Manager SDK.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to. We also did some projects where we built a custom web service, which is kind of in the middle between Service Manager and the other third-party system.
For example, if you want to receive some information out of a cloud solution,
yeah, then
you need the web service with SelfXML.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You can do that. We also did an integration, for example, between Service Manager and ServiceNow, for example.
Yeah.
It's possible. You have to do some work. It's not possible out of the box. Not as it is with these out-of-the-box connectors for Config Manager, for example, but it's absolutely possible.
Okay.
Service Manager also includes kind of a business intelligence for reporting and all this stuff. You can do reports based on OLAP queues. You have a data warehouse. You can do Excel analysis, all this stuff, based on the data which lies in the CMDB. So CMDB, that's an important part in Service Manager and also for this project. CMDB is like you see, we have the Service Manager CMDB, which collects all the information from surrounding systems. So the knowledge, the experts still own the source, like the Active Directory experts own the source of Active Directory. Service Manager does not alter Active Directory in this case. He only takes information or pulls information from Active Directory and stores it in its CMDB. And that's a very important part when it comes to process automation, when it comes to service delivery for end users. You need to have all this stuff in a central place where users can access it. For example, if a user wants to order a new server and the server is charged on usage, for example, you'll need to have information from SCOM, for example, in the Service Manager CMDB, which tells you how much RAM does the server use, how much CPU, for example, so you can bill your customer. But you also need information probably from Active Directory, for example, which is the owner of this server and all such things. And we have the SelfService Catalog, which comes with Service Manager. So the Service Catalog is basically a list of offerings which you publish to your end users. And the portal is like the window to this catalog. So the portal empowers users to order services, to report issues, like to report incidents, for example, and also to do approvals. For example, if you have a service where end users can order a new notebook, this is probably going to be approved by a line manager, for example. And that's really the point where request offerings and this service catalog comes together with automation, and which gives you some amazing possibilities to do end-to-end automation for like user offerings. So back to our project, some Service Manager facts and figures first, maybe not that interesting for you. We had one workflow server, 4 management servers, and we had 2 servers for the portal. At the moment, or back in August, there were about 19,000 service requests in the Service Manager CMDB. So in half a year, we handled about 20,000 requests. Most of them were device requests, such as, like I said, order a new notebook, or I need a new monitor, I need docking stations, all this stuff. And we have, in total, we have at the moment about 30 plus request offerings. This goes from incident reports to account orders to folder permissions, down to desktop and notebook orders, all stuff you have in your IT, all these things you will get in touch with when the user needs a service. So first of all, when we started the project, we defined use cases and services together with the customer. So we talked to the customer and we talked about what services we'd like to offer to the end user and what's the process behind the service. And I think an important step to know is that most of the customers, they want to request something. They want to offer requests where users can order notebooks. But what happens when this user gets out of the company? So he has to bring back this notebook. So think about requesting and terminating requests. There are always 2 requests which you have to design when you start thinking about these services. Also, automation. Automate where it makes sense. It may happen that it doesn't make sense to automate things. There is some stuff which just is too complicated to automate, where you don't gain very much time, or where you don't benefit much from automation. And also, in this project, we had to know who requested what service at what time, just to be able to bill this person or this organization for the services which were delivered by IT. And approvals. Of course, approvals are always a topic. So make sure that you know which services are approved by whom and how are they approved. Is it necessary to have like multiple people to approve a request, or is it okay if just one approves? That's all such questions which came up when designing these services. We then built a data model. That's probably not that interesting for you. That's a Service Manager class model. You can extend Service Manager with custom classes. We had classes such as persons and contracts and all this stuff. can get pretty complicated, so think about how you want to design this data model. Design it properly before you go and implement it into Service Manager, because you can get into trouble if you just go ahead and do the work. So, afterwards, you have to get these objects into CMDB. As I told you, we have some out-of-the-box connectors, which we used. We, for example, used the Active Directory connector. We created our own connector for Config Manager just because we needed to have more information than the out-of-the-box connector provided. And we also created a connector to FIM, to Identity Manager, with SMA. So as you see, it's possible to have a connector for quite everything. We did it by using PowerShell in these cases, but there are other possibilities too. Afterwards, you can start to add your business processes which you designed in the first phase to Service Manager. You can represent these processes in the requests, in the templates in Service Manager. You have various types of activities you can use, like manual activities, automation or runbook activities, and also review activities. Such processes can become pretty complicated, depending on the size of the service, and you can also start to automate the IT process parts, like, for example, the deployment of an app on a computer. So, last step is to build your service catalog. You have to build your offerings, you have to design your forms, which the end user will see on the self-service portal. Be sure that you create mock-ups maybe, and that you know limitations of the portal. Sometimes customers can get very creative when they are designing like a form and have their own, want to do their own stuff and things, but yeah, you are limited to a software product, and Service Manager has its limitations. Also, the portal has its limitations, and be sure you know these limitations. Otherwise, there will be some confusions probably. Okay. So for the demo, we don't have access to this customer environment, so we created a recording. This is what it looks like when an end user gets to this self-service portal. That's the Saracen self-service portal experience. As you can see, end user gets logged in by using single sign-on. He sees that his view in the first place. He has multiple views where he can access his work items, for example. He can access his requests he created in the past. There's also a search, and that's the service catalog. As you can see, there's also a search where a user can search through all the offerings and also through knowledge articles, for example, which are published on the catalog. And as you can see, we have various things here in the service catalog. We can order applications, we can order folders, we can order printers, we can order notebooks, desktops, all this stuff. And when we look at a form of such a request, you can see that, for example, in this case, you have to select a notebook type, like the standard one in this case. You have to select an operating system, you have to select a primary user, for example, for this notebook. And yeah, you can give some details where it should be delivered. Now, I will give you a sample with an application request. So we'll order a application. I think it's Adobe Acrobat. We search for application order, and we will then choose a user for which this application is ordered. You can filter these lists to find the appropriate information. Same with the device where the application should be installed.
Come on. Tell the
Don't
guy
know
to
what I was thinking when I
Internet
did the
connection is a
recording.
bit slow.
Yeah, maybe.
The movies of Netflix.
And that's now the application we are selecting.
Ik vind het briljant op Netflix.
So that creates our request, and the user will then see his requests. That's a new one we created, and I think we'll now see the console experience of Service Manager. That's it. That's not the Service Manager console. That's what, for example, an analyst uses when he works on incidents or service requests, for example. We'll go to work items, service request fulfillment. And that's now our request we created before. You can see that all the information we provided on the portal is now in Service Manager. That's all stored in the CMDB. So you can also do reporting. That's the activities tab, that's the process which is behind this request. Stefan will tell you will give you some more details on this. For this project we created just one initial automation activity, which afterwards dynamically creates all the other activities. It's depending from the user input, if it's going to create multiple review activities, for example, if it's going to create multiple automation activities to deploy applications. If you, for example, selected multiple applications on a portal, then it's going to dynamically build this activity tree. We'll see that in detail afterwards. Yeah, that's pretty much it from the Service Manager part. So I think I'll hand over to Stefan to continue with SMA.
So I will give you some more insights about the service management automation. So since nobody knows what service management automation is, almost nobody, SMA is has several components. So there are the workhorses, like the runbook workers. They execute all the PowerShell workflows. And then there is a kind of a portal, the Windows Azure Pack, which uses, which you can use to build PowerShell workflows and edit those workflows. And they communicate through the OData REST API. They are just connected together. And of course you can use this API to trigger the runbooks from other applications, C#, so you can do whatever you want. It's open. And we talk a lot about the runbooks. It's similar to workflows, jobs. It's basically the same. So different words, same thing behind. The solution is highly scalable, so you can add as many runbook workers as you want into the same collection, I call it. And they communicate in the background with the SQL database. They store the jobs in there, and when one runbook worker is busy, then the other one picks up the jobs and executes those. And the awesome experience I mentioned before, that you use the Windows Azure Pack. Okay, about this project, the SMA facts and figures. So we set up 6 runbook workers. You have seen the amount or the load we put on these workers before in Stefan's session. We had two portal servers for editing the workflows, and the actual runbook job count, or the workflows which were executed, was in July about 1.4 million. Now it's about 1.8 million or something like that. we have written about 250 plus runbooks, parent and child. What that means I will explain later. Yeah, probably now there are 300 runbooks around. We talk to different surrounding systems like Service Manager, FIM, SCSM, Active Directory, ServiceNow, SCOM, whatever end system you can touch with PowerShell or has an API. Of course, because you have PowerShell, you can touch or automate. Some examples of requests we have. We had an offering for notebooks. So the end user goes there, enters all the information like who uses the notebook, who is responsible for the notebook, who gets billed for the notebook, what operating you want on the notebook, and finally, when you fire off this request, and the service gets generated, and then starts the SMA part. So all the objects, for example, it's not only a service request you have also a order. So in the background, you have an object, the notebook itself in the CMDB. You have the user who ordered that notebook. You have the organization which gets built for the notebook and so on. Everything gets generated in the background. Also you have, you can order applications for that notebook or for the desktop or whatever. So you choose in the portal, I will have this desktop and I would like to have Acrobat Reader installed or any other application. And of course we created some other offerings like for file folder permission, to delete network printers, or Snow integration, ServiceNow integration, and many. So there are about 30 offerings plus we have created so far. The architecture, just brief overview. We have two data centers. In the middle there is SQL with its own cluster. We have the database for the Windows Azure Pack, and then also for SMA. Those are standard databases. On each side we have three runbook workers, and also on each side a portal server, and down here the target system we talk to. So it's one special thing we have here is the SMA log DB. I don't know if you can read it. It's this sheet here. That's a special database we created. If you would know SMA a bit deeper, then you know troubleshooting SMA is not that easy. So if you create a PowerShell workflow and you execute it and something goes wrong, then you're in trouble. Because if you create a business process and you have multiple runbooks, let's say 30, and they are nested, so we have a runbook calls another runbook, and something goes wrong with the third runbook, then you don't know what happened, because you just see maybe some weird errors. And to know what happened in the background, we created this logging DB, and we log each step of the PowerShell workflows. So what challenges you have when you're starting such a project? First, you have to be aware that it's a development project. It's not an infrastructure project. So it's not like installing Citrix or like installing SCOM or Service Manager. You create a solution. So you create management packs, you create PowerShell workflows, and everything is customized for the customer. And it's a solution. So you are developing things, and this leads us to the problem that you have to adapt your project management. You have to gather all the requirements before you start developing. Otherwise, you will do it all over again. You also have to define some coding rules. So how are you going to write the script? What is your style? How are you going to implement, for example, if you have to mention packed workflows, the PowerShell script, how are you going to implement this from the development to the integration to the production environment? So you have to define all these steps but the most important, I guess, is getting the requirements right at first. Then the runbook design. How are you designing the runbooks? Are you going to build the nested runbooks? How many levels deep are you going to build them? Are you making a parent runbook, then a child runbook, then a child runbook, then a child runbook? Or what is your guideline there? You have to define it. Also, how are you going to build the runbooks? Are you using Notepad? Are you using ISC? Are you using some other tools around? The naming convention, of course. How are you going to name the parent runbook, the child runbook? Because you have to troubleshoot it. You have to find the runbook which executed the error. Then managing the runbooks, because it is a development project. You need to manage the runbooks, so you have to use some versioning tool. Is it Team Foundation Server? Is it Script Lab? Or is it some other tool? You have to store them somewhere. You have to the automation transparency is another point that because you have problems troubleshooting the SMA workflows, you need to create some logging DB as we have seen before. And okay, you get this data. How are you going to present? How are you going to search this data in the logging DB? We have also created a solution. I will show it afterwards. Then how are you going to interact with the surrounding systems? Are you using PowerShell remoting, or are you using command that's installed on the runbook server? So if I were you, I would decide, do it always the same way if possible. Decide one way and do it that way. And of course, if you have performance issues, then you need to figure out how many runbook servers, how fast are the runbooks running in the background, is it fast enough, is the customer happy or not. But this is not covered in this session. So all this stuff, I will explain it in the upcoming slides. But first, we have created our 10 holy rules. So the first one is think before you code. Is it the best way to create the runbooks, the PowerShell script? Is it the most efficient way? Is it the fastest way to create it? Or does it not make sense at all? Then start with the core. So if you, for example, need an easy way, if you create a user in Active Directory, then start with this core part and then wrap the other things around, like the logging and the workflow, but get the core part first. Don't start with workflow, or curly brace and so on. Standardize and use templates. So imagine you have to write 300 workflows, and every workflow should look about the same. So create a template. I will show it in the demo with ISC. PowerShell module we created, so we get the framework of the workflow with all the logging information, and we just have to insert the core part, like you create the Active Directory user. Then another one is you have to comment your PowerShell workflow. Cool, yeah. Most probably use regular comments, but instead of using comments, use the right bows, because you fulfill commenting your code, and also if you need to debug it, you can start in SMA. You can enable the verbose button, and then you will see the output of each runbook. So, and what we have decided when we touch the surrounding systems, we just go for the PowerShell remoting. So we don't install any CMDLets on the runbook worker itself, because you have to maintain it, and if you want to add another one, you have to think, oh, I have to install this module, and this module, and this module. So we just use remote sessions to the target system and execute the code there. For each technology, let's say we want to talk to SCCM, we have created a dedicated SCCM server and execute the code there, so we don't touch the other productive systems. Of course, then you have to build the error handling, like try catch, error, and if the runbook fails, then we will write to the SMA log DB we created and have so an overview what went wrong. Then of course you have to agree on the naming conventions. How are you going to name the parent runbook, the child runbook, and the variables, the coding style and everything. You have to talk to your team member. Okay, how are you going to do that one? And the red one, that's really the most important part, because we did that at the beginning wrong. We did start developing management packs and we did start writing workflows, and the process was not agreed to everyone. So we had to redo it again and redo it again, and then we had to migrate from the test in the integration and back and forth. So make sure you have your service description, and then start with your management packs, and then maybe if the management packs is 90% complete, you can start with PowerShell workflows. So I told you can nest PowerShell workflows. That's cool. But you can test as deep as you want. You can make 5 levels deep of workflows. We decide, okay, it doesn't make sense. We just go for 1 level. That's it. So we have a parent workflow. We call that solve for a solution. And we have several pattern workflows. We call them PAT. That's our solution pattern model. And we trigger from the parent. That's the runbook you saw in Stefan's demo. You will see it right here. So that's the service request. And from here, that's a runbook activity. This runbook activity is able to call a PowerShell workflow or an SMA runbook. And as you can see, then it will trigger the other runbooks within SMA. And we just used 1 level. We didn't do any crazy stuff. I saw in the community that there are multi-level nested runbooks, and yeah, it's cool, but yeah, if you have to maintain the solution, I guess it's not so cool anymore. So, how are you triggering the runbooks? Well, there are 2 ways. I'm not sure, I'm going probably now a bit too deep, but yeah. Imagine you have a PowerShell workflow, and then you have a child workflow, and you just call from, or you invoke, it's called invoking, the child run workflow from the parent one. Or, there is the other way, you can use the PowerShell commandlet from SMA, start SMA runbook, and this will go to the SMA web service and trigger that runbook. You can use both ways, no problem at all. If I were you, I would choose just 1 way. There are some advantage and some disadvantage. I will explain it here. So we, as you can see from, there are more green check marks when you invoke a runbook than when you start SMA runbook. There are, I would like to point out just a few advantages you have. So first, probably the most important one is when you return the data. So you have a child workflow running, and you return a hash table or an object or a string or whatever, then it will directly string to the parent workflow. And you get it there, and you pass it to the next child workflow within your solution. That's different when you call it using the web service. Then you just get an ID back. No result, and then you have to do some troublesome work to get the real result. Or, of course, the performance is not that great because everything is compiled into one job. It takes longer, but if you hit an error, then the error gets also streamed to the parent workflow, and it's easier for debugging. So just to make it short, we decided to build our solution of invoking the runbooks. We did not use any web service calls. So building the runbooks, there are several ways. You can use Notepad. You can use the Azure Pack SMA editor. Well, it's also not that great, as you will see in the demo. There is a community project, SMA Studio. Well, okay, yeah, works, but they released it last week, a new version, but I think it's still buggy. ISE, it's a cool way, it works. And also the PowerShell tools for Visual Studio, that's what we are using in combination with the PowerShell ISE. We use both though to create our PowerShell workflows. Of course, you have in both tools you have IntelliSense. You can choose what objects or what parameters you can pick, but then you have to copy the code and paste it into the SMA in the WAP editor. Yeah. Managing runbooks. Where are you storing your runbooks? So, yeah, of course you can store all your runbooks. Imagine you have 300 runbooks and you have to track of the history of the versioning and everything. Probably this local file system not that great. Store it in SMA, leave it there, and back up the database. Probably not the best way to, if you want to look up some runbooks you wrote before. On the network share, probably better. You can back up it and restore it. Or you have on-premise TFS. That's a cool solution. Or what we used the Visual Studio Online TFS for storing all our runbooks. It looked like that. We created it's bad quality. We created a folder structure, and we did some versioning or some releases. Release 1.2, 1.3. When we knew that the release is stable, then we created a new release. And within Team Foundation Server, you have the versioning, so you can restore the PowerShell workflows. And it's free, I guess, for 5 licenses. So it's probably the ideal solution. And you can use it from Visual Studio. It's integrated, so you just can copy paste.
Of course, you can use another versioning system like Git or something. Pretty much the same.
Exactly. So automation transparency. That's probably another very important part. If you have such a large project with it, you will struggle when you start or need to debug the workflows. So as I mentioned before, we created a logging database where we store all the errors and also the steps that went okay. So we knew, okay, this runbook is okay, and we can create some statistics later on. You should at least use the fields. If you create such a database, the most simple database you can create is just one table, one SQL database, and use input-output of the runbook, the job ID from SMA, so you can find it. Every job gets a unique GUI. The work item ID is the service request ID, so you know from which service request got this runbook triggered. The state, if it's completed, error, or is there some incomplete state of the runbook. The start date, end date. That's probably those fields that you need at least. Then, because it stored everything in a reporting database, you can use another tool like SSRS, or you can Power BI, or you can use Excel for a quick and dirty analysis for searching then the runbook and see how many runbooks are executed on that runbook worker or whatever. We used in the workflows try catch finally. That's I said before, and of course you could use SCOM for monitoring that database and query if there is an error, then you should trigger another. That's no problem. The way it looks like is on the left side is the SSRS report, so you can search the database, the logging database for all the runbooks, or you can use Power BI and make your analysis there. I guess I have to speed up a bit.
Yes.
Oh, Okay, I will speed up. So
I will automate the rest.
yeah, sure. Everything sounds easy, but can I finish,
What's
please?
in the name?
Thanks. You will run into some trouble. Those are just 4 points. I think that those are impressive because job concurrency. Imagine you have two runbook instances running, and those are touching the same object in a service manager database. So who's going to win? You will run into trouble. It's not solved in SMA. Or we run into some PowerShell remoting trouble. So the mod shell per user ran out of session. Or when we queried SCSM, there is a limitation when you query using PowerShell, just 1,000 objects are returned. If you have 1,500, it is finished. Okay. Or, of course, there was also some trouble with the maintenance windows, because you have to imagine you have the SMA, the runbook engine there, automating everything. But what happens if you have maintenance windows and the administrator is rebooting all the servers around? So the runbooks will probably fail. And you have some failed service requests in Service Manager. So I have just a short demo, 6 minutes.
No.
I'm just presenting 45 minutes. I have counted that.
No, it's not one.
Yeah, please. Yeah, okay. If you want to see the demo, then I can show it to you afterwards, after the session. Then we can I can show it you on the notebook. So the lessons we have learned, just I will flow over. Keep in mind those are development projects, handle or act like that. Make sure that the service description is ready when you're starting automating and building your management pack. Think about the process when you start moving from the dev environment to the integration environment to the production environment, because you have a lot of dependencies to the service management pack, to the PowerShell workflows and so on. Yeah, the rest I can skip. And the last slide, another important part on this slide I would say is schedule your maintenance windows, because you have an environment is larger or less larger than the other one, but if you have administrators and they are not aware that their system is automated, they will reboot it and your automation stuff will fail. And yeah, then you will have failed service requests, you have failed runbooks, and then you have to restart everything, and you have to plan there some sort of process. And the rest, I think I have to skip. But we can have a look at it later after the session. So thank you very much. And then I guess we go and get some beer.